start with the big one as far as, I don't know, maybe unexpected. Maybe we saw some teams playing against other teams or bigger teams and playing out of their socks. But one such game saw Royal AM get a famous victory against Kaiser Chiefs. Gents, what do you make of this one? Let's start with you, Calvin. What do you make of Chiefs' performance? The coach gave in to the public pressure, people requesting that he plays more. Well, he did that. But I don't think it went according to plan. If you ask any Kosi fan, how did you see it?
Yeah, I think the coach made a blunder there. He should have stuck to his gun by saying that he's still going to give Ngobo a time to get into the game. I think the whole tactics on the day went horribly wrong, and Maduka capitalized on that. It was good to see that with Royal AM being so confident and being so possessive of the ball, and also look like from the word get-go that they were a better team compared to Kaizer Chiefs. Also, in a way, coach also in his tactics, he started rushing things on the last minutes. Now putting players that he was supposed to start with, he ended with them, meaning that he still doesn't have the confidence on the team itself. He hasn't built a stronger body to compete because the results are telling. They are telling on their own. So if you are a coach that has mastered and understand your changing room, we should have seen a better result. At this point, it looks like he's still disorientated and it's disorganized. It's all up to him now. Yes, I know the fans are calling for his head at the moment. We might say it's still early times, but at the end of the day, these points count when you go to the wire.
Yeah, Greg, I mean, to that point, what does Stuart Baxter have as far as wiggle room, fans calling for his head? We know Chiefs aren't the kind of trigger happy club. They'll probably see it through with him. But what does he need to start doing besides winning? Obviously, he must settle on a ideal starting 11. How close do you think he is to finding his best team?
It's very far from being close, because you need to get ideal team in terms of when you're winning, because right now he has to keep changing because they haven't won, for a very long time now in terms of what Chiefs supporters are expecting from him, because with the record they have, coming back to Chiefs, it's either two ways. He's going to pile up like this or he's going to start winning again. But so far he hasn't, there's not much we can really speak about because the teams need to start winning now. Because my greatest surprise under Stuart Baxter, after 4 games, Kaizer Chiefs have conceded 7 goals, and only scored 3. The last time I remember by this time, they only conceded 2 goals, in 4 games when he won that league. So I just feel like, there's a lot of pressure, in terms of what the Kaizer Chiefs supporters are expecting. And going to that game against Roy, it was just something else, it was just something else. No one expects that result. But if you don't prepare well, or if you succumb to pressure, as as you say, playing players because of you have to play them, to please other people. I just feel like that's the result that's going to come out because it's 2 ways, in Jabulo, could have played at the weekend and the team win, and all of a sudden, everyone will say that we told you that he's a good player, which we know that he's a very good player. So, but one player cannot make a team, because you need everyone to be in the same page. For me, on that day, Kaizer Chiefs, the whole back line, they were not in the same page because trying to play high line against a team that play a low block, in terms of playing in the transition counter-attack, I just feel it was a suicide, and you have defenders that, for me, anything in front of them, they can deal with it, but things behind them, in terms of playing behind them, is always difficult, and when you have a team like Kaizer Chiefs, in the midfield, there's no pressure in terms of the midfielders of Royal AM picking the pass, playing behind the defense of Kaizer Chiefs, Cardoso and Jabulo, Mato. It's always going to be a disaster. You can't play high line when you play back 3, except you have the players that can go forward and come back. And for me, they just, it's just something they need to change. That's back four or that back three or five at the back, I think is not working right now. So they need to change something. But there's a lot of elements that we can think about that is going to into the game in terms of players playing out of position. On my opinion, I think Frostler should be playing that team because it's a natural right back. Take back Bloom to the midfield because he's energetic. He has that movement. He got good foot work. So he can help in that midfield because that midfield, I think there's not a lot of mobility in that midfield because anything that passes that midfield, and the defense, there's much they can do. They cannot any defense when, players running at them every time like that. So I just think the plan didn't work that day and you didn't expect Royal AM to score four goals. I mean, the last goal was a beauty, I mean, the last goal, that was a super class goal, So, but they have to go to the drawing board. I think the drawing board now, there's no space now in that drawing board now, So they just need to start winning now. So that's what they need to do.
Okay, Greg. Let's get Mr. Batabayer in here because, he's got some skin in the game here. It is essentially your former club, Tim, in Bloom Celtic, now Royal AM, who managed to get this big victory. But you yourself, as a former defender, looking at how that back three or back five are operating for Kaizer Chiefs, what's missing? Is it just an understanding of each other? Is it just a matter of minutes on the park together? Or are these things that should have been resolved and figured out to a working purpose in training already before the weekend's games? Welcome.
Thank you for having me. Good evening to my colleagues and our listeners. It's very important to know that so much is wrong in the backline of Kaizer Chiefs. One is that they don't have a number one goalkeeper at this moment in time. And that's very crucial to the backline. And the defenders don't seem to understand whether they're going to be in the team this week or next week. So there's that lack of understanding, lack of confidence individually amongst the players. Surprisingly, I think it's only Sundowns as a team that has got the most skillful, comfortable players on the ball. And they have not tried to risk to play three at the back. So when I'm seeing Kaizer Chiefs team with three at the back, and they don't have midfielders who are closing down any person with the ball, that is a recipe for a disaster because at the end of the day, you want to play a high line, there's no pressure on the ball, and you have a team of AM they are very comfortable on running off the shoulders of the defenders, and they are very fast. So for me, that was a recipe for a disaster. It was a matter of a one goal to go in and they grow into confidence, and that's what happened. So if really Chiefs intends to build a squad that's going to be competitive and challenge at this moment in time, they need to know their line of defense. They have to identify who is going to be their number one goalkeeper. Either it's Kune, Akpe, or Vumba. Because once you don't get that, the defenders are not going to have that confidence to compete. So for me, they are trying to concentrate on the attack, but you can't attack well in a team of football when your backline is leaking goals. So for me, that's a worry on my part. Yes, I had the coach making comments like it's embarrassing, to concede 4 goals. When you say it's embarrassing, it comes out to my understanding as if the coach automatically thought that they're going to win the game. If players of Chiefs came into the game thinking that they have already beat AM, we are not surprised we're talking about a 4-1 difference. And that last time when they last considered, I think it was then Platinum Stars, something like that beat them 4 goals. So Kaizer Chiefs conceding 4 goals at this moment in time, they need to, like Craig had said, that there's no more space on the drawing board. I would want to agree with Craig that if you're competing with the likes of Sundowns, Pirates, the margin to error to drop so many points doesn't anchor well for Chiefs at this moment in time.
Calvin, I mean, we'll talk about, obviously, in the mix as well as Brandon Peterson. He played at the weekend. It still feels like Baxter's trying to find the right pieces for his puzzle. Is he someone who is in a continuous building phase as far as, he still needs another window, maybe the January one, to get in a couple more bodies? Or do you think he should be turning things around and getting the desired results at this point in time already with an sort of fit Keegan Dolly, a sort of acclimatized Ngowo, as he'll tell us, other pieces of the puzzle that, are getting comfortable? Or do you think by now we should be starting to see the fruit of the work?
Definitely. We should be starting to see the fruits of the work by now. They've signed players on missing position. Now it's a matter of which personality do you put, which personality do you trust for you to do the job at the end of the day. Because all those players that they request, not maybe much of them, but they've put players that were required on the position. They are there. The only thing that they need to find right now is actually the minutes on the pockets and also getting players to understand how the coach wants them to play. It has proven that playing on transition all the time is not working. There's times where teams do know your strategy, and if it's the only strategy that you have, that's a recipe for disaster. So at this point, for us to see these players coming to fruition and players coming alive, the Keegan Dollies, the Billiards, the Nukovic, who is misplaced in his play off position. Like Kaizer Chiefs right now, what they really need is actually have Nukovic back to his original position, because the way he's playing is an absentee on the match. You don't really see him in the way that Baxter wants to play. The more he drifts wider, he takes out the threat out of the opposition's team, and they have a luxury. Those center defense of Royal AM, they had a luxury at the end of the day. They know Nukovic is there that will bully them. But how do you use such an aerial, such a person which got aerial presence to play him on the side? He's the one that is crossing for who to head. You're expecting Billiards to head in comparison to Nukovic. No, that's wrong. I think at the end of the day, the coach is getting the tactics wrong, and he's putting himself under pressure at this point. Should he manage the team well? He had time to work with them when they were still playing at the CAF finals, where he would have said, okay, now coming back, even though they never had much of a preseason, but we're talking about players that have been playing week in, week out, which are called to come and rescue Chiefs' situation. And it's up to you as a coach to start finding the formula on the road. As an experienced coach, I would have thought that he would have done a little bit a professional job in him knowing as it comes to Chiefs. This is what Chiefs struggle with. This is how they drop points. This is how they are not scoring. But don't bring in the same strategy that you used with a different personality that you had back then, because you had players that were working for you, that were getting the results and the understanding of the game model that you wanted to play, which is always on transition. But at this time, you got a mix of players who's still behind in terms of the system that you're trying to play, and they are not adapting well. So save the energy, build from the back, and also, as Tim has mentioned, let us have a number one goalkeeper for Chiefs. We're not picking up names at this time, but we're saying let us have a number one goalkeeper at the team, so then the team can build confidence behind that keeper going forward.
Okay, well, there we go. I mean, Greg, that's an important point to have that reference point in between goal. But yeah, it looks like for Chiefs, the problems are at the back and at the front. In goal, they don't have a number one. Up front, the Semir Nukovic experiment out wide. I mean, I think there was a chance that felt to come out at the weekend that you think to yourself, if Nukovic was in that position, he might have been able to do something with it. What's happening? You know, if you're a player looking at this, someone who's played the game, seeing a coach using players out of position, seeing players not responding, what's going on? Simply put, what do you think is happening?
There's a lot of things that is happening, you know. I mean, if you take out of 100%, you know, 70% of the players, they were excited when Basta was announced as a coach of Kaizer Chiefs. But right now, they're not really putting the work in terms of results, because results is the final justification in terms of how's the team looking, or what are they doing, or what's the progress? Because, you know, there's a lot of elements, you know, you can point to. Nukovic going back to be the top striker, which as the colleagues have alluded to, that is his right full position because, playing on the left side, he gets frustrated most of the time. And Nokovic is one player you can get under his skin and he's off the game. He just, you can see him again. But with saying that, even Nokovic going back to the striking position in terms of the reference of the team, you need a Frostler. You need a Frostler to play the right back to get the crosses. Nokovic goals, the statistics have shown that most of the goals is scored coming from the right side. The Champions League have proven that. So you need some ammunition that can deliver for him. Clancy can do that with his eyes closed, but you need Frostler to be there so that it can be both sides, so it can be both sides that cross come to him because he's tried with his area present in terms of set piece, in terms of corner kicks. That's where he's tried. Holding the ball, playing his back behind with the defense, that is not his strength. But, in terms of attacking the ball, that is his strength. And we know that sometimes he finishes with his foot, left foot or right foot, but most of the goals he scored with his head. So I just think on, Kaizer Chiefs, they need to go back to the drawing board. If there's space in that drawing board, they need to rectify a lot of things, Going back to the goalkeeping side, I just think, you can't have a team like Kaizer Chiefs. They don't know the number one. It's just unacceptable because going to the season, the goalkeeper coach either say that this is my number one. You can, come out in the media and say everyone is number one. But in back of your mind, the head coach, the goalkeeper coach, this is my number one, this is my number two, this is my number three. But at the moment now, under the new season now, I think everyone has gotten his chance. You think about Bruce have gotten his chance, Cooney have gotten his chance, Peterson have gotten his chance. I just feel sorry for him. He came at the wrong time. I think it's left for Daniel now to get his chance so that you can know that everyone has played because, that's the most important thing now the coach need to look for because when you have a stable goalkeeper, you have a lot of international in terms of their personality or their experience. I think you need to have a number one, which is vital. That's part of the team. A center back, a midfielder, a striker. You cannot just change that. You can change people around them, but you need to have that now at this moment.
Craig, I have a feeling you are being economical with the truth. I'm sure as a goalkeeper coach, you very well assure your goalkeepers that this is number one, this is the second choice, this is the third choice. Yes, there are those cases that come once in a blue moon where the third choice will become the number one in that moment. But always once the first choice is avoidable, the goalkeeper should know it. There's a misguided approach to propel or to encourage competition in players and goalkeepers. And it's misguided. We have seen it in Europe. You have got a player that if Ronaldo is not injured, he's going to be on the field of play, irrespective of how Lingard is like that. That has to be the players to build.
My point is like, you see, it's a new coach. I think this is his first full season for a long time, apart from when he won the championships for Kaizer Chiefs. So he needs to give everyone a chance. As we glamour for Njabulo to get a chance. So everyone deserves a chance. But you cannot, in that expense, losing game, because you are losing game, now you start giving everybody a chance. No, you need to trust the core of the team. But in that spine of the goalkeeper, center back, a midfield, and a striker, those ones cannot be tempered. Those ones, that, okay, you got to put the trust. You see they're improving in terms of the ratio in terms of attacking wise, or in terms of defensive wise, or in terms of creating chances, or in terms as a goalkeeper, you are doing the right thing. Maybe you concede goals, it's not your fault, but it doesn't mean that you're overnight you're a bad goalkeeper. So what I'm trying to say is you need to get number one and back him up.
The point that is very clear, and I need to point it out, is that a team of Kaizer Chiefs caliber, there is no giving anybody a chance. When you're a Kaizer Chiefs player, every day of your life, you should be ready to play. Once called upon, you should be able to deliver. There's no, it's not an upcoming team that everybody is given a chance. This one is a youngster.
Team, if the team is not winning, definitely a winning team should be kept. But if the team is not winning, you have to give others a chance because you have other 30 players, you have 25 players. You cannot say the team is losing, and all of a sudden you say, no, I don't want to give anybody a chance. You continue losing. No, you have to give others a chance.
So are you suggesting that there is gambling in the selection of players?
Not gambling. If the team is not winning, if the team is not winning, a winning team stays. If the team lose 1 or 2 games and they don't play well, I mean, the way they lost at the weekend, the whole team, that 11 players should move away, set on that new 11 should play.
No.
If be like that.
But Greg, you can't change all 11 players, surely. I mean, you can't do that. You have to be strategic in who you're going to take out.
Kevin, what I'm trying to say, they played very bad. There's no one player you're going to point out that is a standout in that game. There's no one player. Let's be sincere. There's no one player.
Yeah, but you can't break down the whole house though, Greg.
Craig,
you know what I mean?
What is important is you're gonna have those games when you're gonna have a bad game. Unfortunately, the 11 players didn't have a good game at the office in the evening. But what I'm looking at, even when the team is playing poorly, surely you should play for the badge. You should play for your teammate next to you. If I'm having a bad game, I expect my next player close to me, to try and cover my ill performances in the game. That's what I expect from my teammate. So in this case, it was very disappointing. But I guarantee you, if I was in Baxter's position, I would maintain the same team that lost 4-1 in the next game. And I demand a response from my players. I wouldn't go about changing, because then you won't have a team. The same team was the best team thought to have brought the 3 points, and they did not. I think they need to back them up and demand that they perform over and above themselves to rectify what they did against Royal AM.
Well, that is a fair consideration, Tim. And I think, let's see. Maybe there is some psychological benefit in doing that, giving these players an opportunity to atone for that result against the Royal AM. But let's give credit where it's due. John Maduka, with very skinned resources, able to pull out some big results from time to time, but also some big occasions, having to been the finals with these teams. Here's a coach who's working under immense pressure, Kelvin. They had to uproot all the players in themselves from the Free State to KZN and somehow get back into the business of playing football normally, with an abnormal situation surrounding them. How do you think he's done so far, and what will this victory do now for them moving forward, Royal AM? We know how these sometimes so-called smaller teams do pick up their performances for the big sides, but did you see enough from there to see a character in this Royal AM team to be like this for the rest of the season? Or do you think they're going to be struck by what most teams in this league struggle with, and that's consistency?
Yeah, I think one of it is consistency, that the wheels might come off. At this point, they're still on the high. I think when you're playing against Kaizer Chiefs, you don't need no motivation. Any player, Greg can tell you, Tim can tell you, when you play Kaizer Chiefs, it's always one of those motivating games, because you just want to do well, because you're competing with one of the best. So once you're thrown into that pool, you itching to play, to show them that the quality that they have, and you knowing how to play this game that we so love. We just want to deliver at the end of the day, because remember, when you're playing against Chiefs, the window is always open if you do well. It will always be considered as one of the most important part on players, which they would love to play for one of these big teams, Sundowns, Pirates, Chiefs. So again, when you play them, it's as if you are marketing yourself. You're sending your resume to them to have a look at you. Yes, with Maduka, he has done absolutely well. And I think he has raised his hand with the skin resources that he has and the challenges that they face. I would say kudos to him, to marshalling his team to have more confidence and coming at this game and then win by 4-1. Nobody expected this score result, but I think he's done something to the boys. If it's only a matter of them have followed the full game plan, because if you look at Chiefs, they still came with a bank of 3 at the back, as we've covered, and then overpacked the middle, which versus a team that came with a 4-3-3, meaning the domination was always in the middle, and this is a battle that they've never won. Up front, for Royal AM, this is where we saw that Royal AM was always good on the counter-attack. So it was transition less on them, which is Chiefs' best weapon that they had. But it worked against them because as we saw, the goals that were scored, the first one, all defenders at the back were caught facing their own goal. And me and Tim will tell you that that's suicide. You are never caught like that. And they're caught square. The ball that went behind them and a striker coming from behind to sneak in and score a goal, that is unacceptable, because if you're going to defend so thin at the back, you need to always communicate, because what does it mean if you set up like that? It means you are willing to build up at the back, because if they send a bank of two to press you up, it means you have a room, because you still have a goalkeeper as an outlet to take you out from a situation. For you to go into the second phase of attack, which is in the middle. And then up front, you are still playing flat with a striker being moved wide. Maybe the idea was for Khama to play between the lines and always find space behind because of his speed. But that didn't work much, because Nekovic was the lesser person in terms of defending, who was caught always late. And then Royal AM always had an opportunity to take advantage of his recovery level. That's why all those goals were scored. And also the subs that were made. It feels as if all those subs that were made were not prepared for this game mentally. It's just like they said to them, warm up, you're coming in. It was like, it was shocking for them, because you saw the Maveliso also, how he, when he got in, unlucky from that deflection, and then it was a goal. But even him, knowing very well that you are playing three at the back, just try and then minimize not moving too much up front, because as you move two fullbacks going up, you always leave spaces behind it, which is where Royal AM find joy on the wing. Most of their goals came from there.
Well, there we go. So the characteristics of Siwelele is still coming through in John Maduka's Royal AM side. Different uniform, but same old stuff inside the tin, as they got themselves a good victory at the weekend, beating Kaizer Chiefs. Stuart Baxter will now have much food for thought as far as still trying to find his best 11. Right now, it just seems like it's a concoction, a mixed bag of just throwing players in the mix, and some rising to the top. I think some of the new acquisitions have put up their names, like we say, a fully fit Keegan Dolly is going to be quite something. They still need to figure out how they're going to use Samir Nikovic, a coach who under Ernst and maybe less so under Gavin Hunt was quite successful for the team. I think, Stuart Baxter might need to have to pick up the phone and call Ernst Middendorf just to find out, how do I get the best out of this guy? I think most people will say to him, try and make him the center of the attacking project. Velile, I don't want to go without getting your thoughts on what's happening at Kaizer Chiefs, obviously with Stuart Baxter and the experiment at the weekend that went wrong against Royal AM. What is the current mood? What are the murmurs coming out of Naturina about his current campaign and, his return? Obviously not living up to the billing of the past.
We've just said with Coach Trotter it's still too early. Don't you think even with Baxter it's still too early? Or
I think that. I think he might have more time, but I mean, don't ignore what you're told. I heard a wise journalist once say on a show about 10 minutes ago, this very show actually, said, don't gotta believe. So, yes, it might be too early, but has it crossed the minds of the powers that be?
If you know how Kaizer Chiefs operates, I think it was for the first time under Solinas when they pulled the trigger. Yeah. But then again, they pulled that trigger, I think it was around December when they pulled the trigger, because they could see that the direction. But I think with Coach Stewart, they are still going to give him some time. Because, look, his track record in the country is not that bad, especially at club level. He's got a good track record. But I think the reality is that this is not 2012 to 2015 when he was at Chiefs. A lot has changed, A lot has changed now. Also, maybe when he was...
Has he changed enough, Velile? Because people criticize him for not changing.
When he was at SuperSport, a lot has changed now. And I'm saying this based on the fact that firstly, let's talk about the game that they've just lost this past weekend
against Royal AM. Yes.
Yes. That game, you must know that yes, they are in name they are playing Royal AM, but they were playing Bloemfontein and Celtic.
For sure, yeah, we did point that out.
Celtic is the team they have not beaten in the last 3 matches before that game. You know what I mean? 2 draws and the 3-1 loss in the bubble. You know?
Right.
So this tells you that that's why I was laughing at people talking about how they're going to Royal AM, they must give them 5. No, but look at the games that Royal AM has also been playing. They've been very close. You know? So football evolves. You know? Yes, the coach might have done well when he was here, but a lot has changed now. And that's why if you have a team, you must believe in your team. You know, you must believe in your team and even the people that you are working with. Because no man, you cannot be a lone ranger. You understand? They are the ones. And that's why for me, I had a problem with the coach's statement. I asked the question on Nobo, you know? So I had a problem when he said he doesn't know Nobo because he was not there last season. You know what I mean?
Imagine.
That's what your assistants are there for.
Exactly.
You understand? That's what your assistants are there for. You know, this is one of the things that I liked with Coach Hugo Bruce. In his first press conference with us, he said he is looking for an assistant coach who is not just going to be a ball boy and put the cones.
Sure.
You know, you see, foreign coaches, they must come here with that mentality. If a foreign coach is coming here with a mentality that he knows better than the locals and the locals cannot tell him anything, this is how it goes. Because, Kamza, how many times, you see, you were asking me about Sundowns earlier. And I gave you, and I said, this is what Sundowns is doing, and this is what places them. You understand?
Yeah.
Because there, we in the other day, we were having a press conference with Rulani, you know, and he was saying, when it comes to the recruitment, you know, he's giving credit to his team of scouts. Ezrom, Terra. You count all the scouts they've got there, you know?
Right.
The data analysts and all those people. Because, sorry, those people play a critical role. You know?
Sure.
We might be talking about recruitment, but at the end of the day, that recruitment, it informs the 3-0 that Sundowns got. You know?
I hear you. It's not all just by chance. I hear you. Really.
Yes.
Like there's planning.
So, yeah, because it informs that. Because I'm saying, Kamza, when I say a Kutumela making those runs, I mean, for me, that Sundowns goal, that third goal, it was just a confirmation of, wow, this team, the passing, you know, the weight of the pass coming from Hashim Domingo to Kutumela, the run from Kutumela, receiving it and pushing it, you know.
Yeah.
So for him to be compatible with the rest of the team, after having played only 4 or 5 matches with the rest of the team, it means that the analysis team has done its work to inform the 3 coaches on the strengths and the weaknesses of this player. You understand? So that's why on receiving players, the new players, even if he's a new coach, on receiving players, surely achieved there's an analysis department that would have given him to say, this is the new players, these are their strengths and weaknesses. And in fact, you arrive at a good time when a player is also playing in the COSAFA Cup. You know what I mean? And playing at that COSAFA Cup, they play 6 matches.
Yeah. No, I hear
0
you.
goals considered. 0 goals considered. Clean sheets.
Yeah.
And there, who was his defensive partner? It's the man who's marshalling the defense at Sundowns now, Roshan Direk. You understand?
So that's
and
the difference,
he's leading in the national team. You understand? So I just think, and this is the challenge now, because Kaizer Chiefs also is starting to have injuries, and this is the other worry of Chiefs, because also we've been exposed to a lot of these things like periodization and all. I'm not sure if Chiefs, I don't know, because we've been exposed to people of periodization. You know what I mean? And I'm not sure about the Chiefs' sports science department, if it's also the best in that space, because sometimes I also look at when it comes to physical conditioning as well. Sundowns had KB. They replaced him with Rido. At Amazulu, they've got who's the guy who was the Chiefs before? There's got Josh. Josh is another periodization expert. So these are the things for me. I feel that we can go on and on and on and on and on and on. And right. Sometimes, earlier we were talking about models,
Yeah.
And sometimes I would understand why a club like Pirates would not wait for a coach to make a call on a player. Because I believe that you cannot wait for a coach to be making a call on a player. Because the players don't belong to the club. They're to the coach. They belong to the club.
Right.
And yes, you have to sign players who are also compatible to the coach's game. But at some stage, you must make the call on what is best for the club.
Facts. Those are facts, yes.
This past weekend, a player who could have been a Chiefs scored a brace against Chiefs and dominated them, and had a very good game. And this is a player that they could have had possibly even Mahara,
The whole man of the match, they could have had him for free.
So sometimes football is not even about these difficult decisions that have to be made. It's about being streetwise, understanding the situation, and also understanding that Kamza, as much as I was here before when we were doing the podcast on front runners, but also because now I've not been here for weeks or months, things would have changed,
For sure.
And I must assess the situation and adapt.
Of course, accordingly. You're right. And let's see. Maybe that's what Mr. Baxter will do. He's got time. Like you say, they're not going to push the panic button just yet.
Yes, because if I don't adapt,
you're going to die. Adapt or die.